Hey friends, it's Gloria and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be going through the nonfiction books that I plan to read in the month of November, or really my pile of possibilities. If you don't know, Nonfiction November is an event that happens every November. It's hosted by Book Olive and it's an initiative to read more nonfiction. I love nonfiction and I love historical fiction, and those are the two categories of books that I plan to read in the month of November. I put up a video with some of my recommendations for Nonfiction November, but today is going to be my TBR / pile of possibilities. There are 4 one-word challenges or prompts that can be interpreted in many different ways. I couldn't just choose one book for each, so that's why this is a pile of possibilities. So let's start with the word record. The first book that works for this prompt and is on my list to read is One Day, The Extraordinary Story of an Ordinary 24 Hours in America by Jean Weingarten. This is a nonfiction that I found in a little free library a couple years back at this point. The premise of this book just sounds fascinating, and I really hope that it's as good as I think it will be. This book is all about September 28th, 1986, a seemingly ordinary day where a bunch of crazy things happened, and this author, who is a journalist, breaks down some interesting things that happened that day. I immediately thought of this book when I watched a Book Olive's announcement video, so I really hope to finally get it read this year. Another nonfiction darling that works for record really well because it's around sports is The Boys in the Boat, an epic true life journey to the heart of Hitler's Berlin by Daniel James Brown. This is a very well-beloved book about an American rowing team and how they go to Berlin for the Olympics. I haven't really read too much nonfiction around sports or sports teams, and I feel like this book is a great place to start within that subgenre because, again, this is so well beloved at this point. And lastly, for record on my pile of possibilities is 5 Days at Memorial, Life and Death in a Storm-Ravaged Hospital by Sherry Fink. This book tells a story of a hospital being ravaged by Hurricane Katrina. Again, the author is a journalist and it took years of research to write this book. I feel like this could be on the same lines as The Only Plane in the Sky or Columbine, which are both fantastic books around tragedies that happen in America, and maybe similarly this will unpack some of the events of Hurricane Katrina and how it impacted this hospital. I'm really interested to read this, especially now in light of the recent hurricane in Florida. I just think that this will be hard but also very impactful. The next word is element, and for me I immediately think of elements: earth, wind, fire, water. So I have 3 possibilities that could work for this. The first one is The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind by William Kamkwamba. My initial reaction is that this book is also one of those must-read nonfiction books in your lifetime about a young boy who created a windmill in a small town in Africa and changed the life of his community. I've heard, again, nothing but fantastic things about it. Another one is Into Thin Air by Jon Krakauer, all about a team that climbs Mount Everest, and I believe some of them die, and this tells the tragic events of that Mount Everest disaster. I need to read a Jon Krakauer book. I've only heard amazing things. I now own several of his on my shelves, and this would be the perfect time of year to read this. And then finally, another nonfiction that has been on my TBR for so long, so maybe I'll finally get to it in November, and that is Midnight in Chernobyl by Adam Higginbotham. This is the untold story of the world's greatest nuclear disaster. This is about the nuclear power plant that exploded in 1986 in Ukraine. Again, many of these books could work for both because this is a record of what happened on that day and how that nuclear plant exploded, so it could work for that as well. But I think it works for elements because elements makes me think of science, which makes me think of a nuclear power plant. So that's why I felt like this book paired well with the word element. Next up, the word is border. I again have 3 possibilities for this one. The first is Black Sea: Dispatches and Recipes Through Darkness and Light by Caroline Eden. This book was a recommendation from my fellow coworker who works at the library with me, and he said this book was fantastic, and I immediately needed to check it out. My mom is from Odessa, Ukraine, which is a town that is on the Black Sea, and so she grew up with stories about the Black Sea and how important of a body of water it was to the people of Ukraine. I had never heard of this book before, but when I got that recommendation, I immediately knew that I needed to read it. And then the Nonfiction November announcement went up and the word was border, and I was like, perfect time to read this. A blurb on the back says, part travelogue, part recipe book. This is a love letter to the sea that welcomes strangers, soaked in color, history, myth, and the flavors of many cultures. Sounds incredible. It's also a beautiful book, has some sprayed edges, has a stunning cover, has to do with Ukraine and the Black Sea and food and memoir and traveling and a little bit of everything in between. It sounds fantastic. I really hope that it lives up to my high expectations. Another nonfiction possibility for the word border is Red Famine: Stalin's War on Ukraine by Anne Applebaum. In light of the current war with Russia and Ukraine, this book has reemerged, and I've seen it on many recommendation lists for those that are interested to learn more about Russia and Ukraine relations and some history. This book came on my radar when I read a nonfiction graphic novel that touched on this subject matter, and I really needed to learn more. I wanted a deeper dive into Stalin's War on Ukraine and what happened to the Ukrainian people in the 1930s. This book is all about the forced famine on the people of Ukraine, where over 3 million people died, an absolutely tragic tragic genocide that a lot of people don't know about. And finally, for border, I have The Lemon Tree, An Arab, a Jew, and the Heart of the Middle East by Sandy Tolan. This book I first heard about from Kristen from Enter the Book. She sang its praises, and then I found it in a little free library and I picked it up. I think this book is about a family and a friendship between people who are unlikely to have ever forged a friendship because of the political and religious tension in the area that this book is set. All I know is that I want to learn more. And then the final word is secret. Again, so many books to choose from. I narrowed it down to 3 possibilities. The first one, and the most likely to get read because it is the shortest and I'm just the most interested in it, and that is This Is Going to Hurt: Secret Diaries of a Medical Resident by Adam Kay. I'm currently binging my way through Grey's Anatomy. Don't ask me why. I had COVID in the summer. I started watching it and I'm still watching it. And I know there's like 19 seasons, so I have no idea when I'm gonna finish it, but I think this nonfiction pairing alongside with my Grey's Anatomy binge would work very well. Another possibility is The Secret Life of Groceries: The Dark Miracle of the American Supermarket by Benjamin Lohr. This just sounds really interesting to me. I feel like I want to discover some secrets behind grocery stores and what goes on behind the scenes. It just sounds like I'm gonna learn some fun and maybe some disturbing facts. And then finally, The Secret World of Weather: How to Read Signs in Every Cloud, Breeze, Hill, Street, Plant, Animal, and Dewdrop by Tristan Gooley. This book intrigues me because I would love to be more aware and present with understanding some things that are going on outside. And I live in Oregon where the weather is constantly changing. So those are my possibilities in TBR for Nonfiction November this year. What do you think of my picks? Have you read any of them? Do any of them sound interesting to you? Let me know down below in the comments. I am eagerly awaiting for November to start to read so many of these books that I'm excited for. Thank you as always for watching, and I will see you guys in another video soon. Bye!